Hello, and welcome to The Pool is Abstract, where we're currently rewatching and dissecting the revived series of Doctor Who, episode by episode. My name is Connor, and with me is the woman I'd like to take out to dinner.
Ah, Charlotte. I would like that very much. I'm very hungry.
Should we go for dinner after this?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. So today, Charlotte, we watched Series 1, Episode 11 of the revived series of Doctor Who. It's called Boomtown. It aired on June 4th, 2005 and was written by... who?
To Davis.
Russell
to Davis.
Mr. Russell the Davis.
The Davis.
Yeah. He wrote quite a lot in Series 1, didn't he?
Mm.
Yeah, because normally the showrunners always write, like, the first one, and then, like, the last one.
And then, like, one in the middle.
Yeah, but, no, I mean, Russell wrote, Rose, End of the World, Aliens of London, World War III, The Long Game, Boomtown, and the two-part finale. So Russell wrote 8 of the 13 episodes in this series.
Yikes.
So, yeah, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, this, I guess, is only... Well, it's noteworthy for two things, to me at least. One is that this is the first episode of the revival with a recurring villain. Mm-hmm. It's the first time we have someone come back. And also, I know I said this when we covered The Long Game, but I also think this is one of the episodes that has the most consequences in the finale.
Yeah.
I know I said it with The Long Game because technically the events of that story set up the circumstances for the finale, but I think between the Heart of the TARDIS and the what's it called, the surfboard, the extrapolator, those two play a big part in the finale as well. But yeah, do you have anything to say about this episode before we just dive in?
No.
Cool. All right, so the episode begins. Mr. Cleaver is telling Margaret Blaine that he's concerned about the nuclear power plant that's scheduled to be built in Cardiff. Mm-hmm. Margaret Blaine, obviously being a member of the Slitheen family from Aliens of London, World War III. We believed her to be dead, but she's not.
No.
Immediate first note I had, Mr. Cleaver is a recurring actor. That's William Thomas. So obviously he plays Mr. Cleaver in this episode. He technically plays a character in Classic Who called Martin from Remembrance of the Daleks. But I also know him as Geraint Cooper, as in Gwen Cooper's father in Torchwood.
I thought he looked familiar.
So, yeah, we got another...
Reoccurring actor.
Not just reoccurring, but technically 3 different characters in the Whoviverse. We got another Peter Capaldi in our hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mr. Cleaver's basically telling Margaret that it's the power plant is dangerous. She asks if he's told anyone else. He says, no, I haven't. She goes, good choice. He says he's relieved, so load off his mind, and she kills him.
Yeah, she's like, of course I would do anything to save the humans.
Yeah, she's like, what'd you take me for? Some kind of maniac? Yeah, it's another instance of when she starts unzipping and you see that kind of blue light and that kind of buzzing noise. Another instance of me thinking, how does no one seem to notice the lighting in the room just change very dramatically?
Well, someone does later, don't they?
Yeah. But he doesn't.
No, maybe he's too busy looking at the what's called not the diagram, the miniature. Yeah,
there's like a miniature, that's not a word, miniature model of the power...
Model, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, there's a model of the power station kind of on the desk that he's looking at whilst he's kind of wiping his glasses and or cleaning his glasses and wiping his brow. But yeah, she unzips and she kills him. And that's just the cold open, I think. Mm-hmm. We get titles, and then we get... Mickey.
Getting off Cardiff.
Getting off a train in Cardiff.
Central Station.
Yeah.
Which I'd like to say 2 things about this little scene.
Yeah.
And about the scene about where the Doctor has parked.
Yes.
This episode was, 20 years ago now?
It was, what did I say in the beginning? It was
ago?
June 4th, 2005. So 20 years ago this year.
Cardiff hasn't changed.
No, not really.
Not one bit. That central station looks exactly the same.
It's so
They're
true.
probably the same trains, and in the bay where the Doctor is parked is exactly the same. I did make one note though, which I'll come to when we get to that.
I mean, I wonder if it's the same note I made,
It probably is.
which is the only thing in Cardiff Bay that's not the same as it is now.
Is the water feature?
Oh, the fact that it works in this.
Yeah, the water feature is no longer on.
No, it wasn't that. It was the fact that when Rose and Mickey are talking later, obviously where they're standing is where Yanto's shrine normally is.
Oh yeah.
And obviously,
yeah.
I imagine that would have been removed anyway, just for continuity reasons. But obviously, this was pre-Torchwood anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're kind of standing, leaning against a rail by the pier. And if
Yeah.
you go to that location now, there's a big shrine for Yanto on the wall, which obviously isn't there now. But that's like the main difference. Other than, yeah, like Charles mentioned, the big fountain water feature now, it's obviously still there, but the fountain's just never on anymore.
No, to save water, they turn and electricity. They've turned the water feature off.
Yeah, so now it's just a big
Monument.
pylon.
Big old monument.
Yeah. So Mickey gets off the train. He walks into the bay where the TARDIS is parked, pretty much directly in front of that water feature. And he knocks on the door, and who answers? It's Jack. I get the impression immediately that Mickey does not like Jack.
No, Jack, whatever you're selling, we don't want.
Whatever you're selling, we're not buying. He goes, get out my way, and just pushes past him. Yeah, so this is when we basically find out that the TARDIS has landed in Cardiff Bay to recharge because of a leak of radiation coming from the rift. So obviously the rift was set up back in The Unquiet Dead. It was like a tear in space-time. Obviously now we are many years later, but still, obviously the rift is still present.
Yeah.
So yeah, the TARDIS is essentially parked there to soak up the radiation to act as like a refuel, and then they're going to fly off. But this recharge process is going to take about a day. So Mickey's there because Rose called him because
She needed a passport.
she wanted a passport. Yeah, the Doctor says, what does he say? I've told you don't need a passport. I can take you anywhere. And she said, yeah, that's all fine and like all good and well when we're on other planets. But what if we go to Brazil? I need to be prepared.
Fair. I mean, what's it called? Paper, psychic paper.
Yeah.
Would be pretty good, but
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
maybe the Doctor needs that because he hasn't got a passport at all.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because you know when Mickey enters the TARDIS and the Doctor's working on something up on like a ladder, and he says something like, "Oh, Ricky boy," and he goes, "It's Mickey," and then Rose is like, "Oh, he's winding you up." But it's funny because obviously that was that recurring thing that he did in kind of like a spiteful way in the Slitheen two-parter. And obviously he said it again, but if you remember how that story ended, he kind of had a lot more respect for Mickey.
Yeah.
So now I think even though he said it and he's trying to maintain that status quo for Rose, because as far as Rose is aware, the Doctor still doesn't really like Mickey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you can tell just from his tone, facial expressions, body language that
He's happy to see him. He's like, oh,
yeah,
hello,
he's happy to see him, and I think that's reflected in the end of the episode as well.
Yeah.
Because when they're gonna leave, and he says to Rose like, "Do you want to say goodbye to Mickey or something like that?"
Yeah, and he's like, oh, we'll wait.
Yeah, we'll wait around. So I think the Doctor actually, and I think it works both ways. But
He cares more about Mickey than Rose does.
True.
Yeah.
Good point. It's a true statement. I think Jack is a bit much for Mickey.
I think one note I've put here is, God, the three of them are insufferable. My
I feel like it would
God,
be a really.
I would be out of there straight away.
It would be a really fun group to be a part of if you were on the TARDIS team with them.
Yeah.
But hearing the three of them talk about things together when you're like out of the loop.
It's not so bad if you're just listening to stories. Like when Jack tells the story, I mean, it's a bit cheesy, but it's
Yeah.
do you mean it's fine? But when they literally do
When they're
the
taking it in
into
turns.
time and space, and then they high five each other,
Yeah.
I literally just like,
I like that moment. I know what you
hate
mean.
it.
I know what you mean about like when they're trying to explain how the rift refueling works to Mickey, and they're kind of taking it in turns to
Yeah.
explain bits.
Oh,
That's a
God.
bit like, come on, guys, stop talking down to it. But the moment where they go, into time and space, and then they all do like a group high five. I quite like that.
I hated that.
I know it's a bit
so
cringe,
much.
but I think it's cringe in a good way.
It's terrible. Honestly,
I really like it.
I hate it so much. I do hate cheese, though. That's what I
It's funny
can't
'cause-
stand cheese.
Well, Mickey calls Jack cheesy, doesn't he?
He does,
Because
yeah.
he says, "Who's jumping Jack Flash over here?" And he says, "Don't you mean handsome?" And he's going, "I thought more cheesy." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Wait, early naughty slang. Is cheesy good or bad?" He goes, "It's bad, but bad means good."
Oh, yeah. Mickey says about taking Rose out for dinner and going out somewhere, just the two of them.
Yeah, get pizza.
Yeah. And Jack says, "Oh, why don't I have something like that?" And he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, "You're too much hard work." And then Doctor goes, "Worth it though."
But worth it. Yeah, and he's got that little cheeky like smarmy
and he's
face.
he's on a ladder with a torch on his head, just like
He's
worth
got
it.
big dad energy in it.
Yeah, big old smirk on his face. He's so
Man.
cute.
I
love him.
know I say this every time, but just to meet my quote of the episode, Christopher Eccleston's so good. Yeah, so they are kind of exploring the area, and they go to like a restaurant.
I think they're in Cadwallader's, aren't they?
Yeah, it's either Cadwallader's. For reference, Cadwallader's is an ice cream shop in Cardiff Bay. They're either in there or they're in the next one over. Because obviously Cadwallader's is an ice cream shop where there's a similar restaurant on the pier, like next to where that actually is a restaurant. So it's more likely to be that. Because I can't imagine they would pull the entirety of Cadwallader's out to make it look like a restaurant when there is a near identical looking place that is a restaurant nearby.
Maybe.
But yeah, regardless, it's a real place. You can go. Yeah, this is when, like Charles said, Jack is like telling this story, and they're all kind of like laughing and having fun around the table.
On about being naked, and it's got big horns, and there's 15 of them, and they're running away.
Yeah, and Mickey finishes the joke and goes, "I knew we should have turned left." Right.
Which I said about turn left.
Yeah, you just kind of did the Leonardo DiCaprio point at the screen and went, huh, turn left.
Turn left.
This is a pet peeve of mine. I feel like I've told you this before, but when films or TV shows cut to a scene and you just hear the punchline of a joke,
Yeah.
and you don't hear this, so you just like, I don't know, we'll cut to a scene and you'll hear someone say something out of context that's the punchline to a joke, and then everyone loses their mind as if it's like the funniest thing they've ever heard. I hate that trope.
So if it's so funny, let us in on it.
Yeah, I was saying it's such a lazy way to write a character to be funny. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like you don't actually have to write the joke.
No.
Yeah, I hate that. That's a trope in TV that I can't stand. But anyway,
Again, another cheese. Big old cheese.
yeah. Anyway, Jack's telling this joke. They're laughing. They're having a good time. And then the doctor looks over and he sees a man sat down reading a newspaper, and he recognizes something on the on the front page.
Snatches.
Oh,
out
he
of his
doesn't.
hand.
He just he walks over
this
and he
poor
just.
man's just reading his
It's
newspaper.
like, how old is this man? Like 60?
Probably. Maybe even older than that. And he just goes up and snatches it out of
He
his
just
hand.
snatches the newspaper out of his hands. The guy, he doesn't even stand up in protest. He just kind of looks around like, oh, yeah. And the doctor says, "And I was having such a nice day." And he turns the paper around, and you can see a photo of Margaret Blaine with her hand out as if she's like trying to cover the camera.
I mean, we've jumped a little bit here.
We have, yeah. I'll get to it in a sec. But
You do such weird ways. I want to do beat by beat, but you're like sticking with characters.
just thematically, just to where it tonally makes sense. But yeah, the title of the newspaper article says "New Mayor, New Cardiff," and obviously we have this picture of Margaret. So yeah, technically this happens after. Sorry, what we're about to talk about happens before this scene where they're at Cadwallader's having lunch. But we obviously find out that Margaret, or Blonde Felfoch Pasamir de Slitheen, has become mayor of Cardiff and is trying to build a nuclear power station, like we know from the cold open. Over the years, over the months, I guess, it turns out several people have found different flaws in the design that could cause a meltdown, and every single one of them seem to have disappeared. So right now they're currently holding like a press conference
to show the designs or this model. But
Yeah, to show this model. And again, when we cut to it, Margaret's just kind of finished his speech.
well, I find this so interesting because, I mean, I know it's very subtle, which generally this episode doesn't do subtlety. But I like this subtle bit, the fact that at the start it says 6 months later,
Yes.
and we find out that she was like teleported into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So within 6 months, she has become the mayor of Cardiff and greenlit a nuclear power station that's going to replace Cardiff Castle. She literally says, demolish Cardiff Castle and this will go in its place. Like, that is... You gotta have some respect. You gotta have some respect. She got things done.
Yeah.
She was like, power
No
station...
wonder she excelled in Welsh politics. She's
Yeah.
the only one that's ever done anything.
Yeah. She was like, this is...
She actually has a policy that's not just make everything Welsh again.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But even then, maybe that's why. Because she even named... She was getting rid of Cardiff Castle, yes.
Yeah.
However, she named it in Welsh.
She did.
And she even said, oh, the Frenchman who died, it wasn't my fault that the sign was only in Welsh.
Yeah, yeah.
So
at the press conference, Margaret bumps into Kathy.
Kathy Salt.
Yes. Kathy Salt, who is a journalist, reporter type. And Kathy asks Margaret about the deaths related to the project, that she says, like, the project's cursed or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is when they go on about, oh, it's not my fault the Frenchman died and the instructions were only in, or the warning signs were only in Welsh.
The warning signs for warning lots of explosives.
Yeah. And
My favourite one, and I know you're probably about to say this,
is it the last one?
Is the last
Mr.
one.
Cleaver.
Mr. Cleaver, who died on slipping on an icy patch. He was decapitated. It was very icy.
It's a very icy patch. Yeah. Margaret's getting a bit annoyed at this point, so she says, maybe we should speak in private.
I mean, come on, Kathy. Like, I know you've done your research, but this is hella sus. 'Cause
Yeah.
She literally, like, touches her necklace, and she's like, maybe we should go talk in private. It's like, oh, God, stop touching me, you weirdo.
If she's not going to kill me, she's definitely coming on to me.
Yeah, and then she drags her into the bathroom and goes, all girls together.
Yeah,
It's
as her
no.
belly is rumbling, she got hella bubble guts, and she pulls her into the bathroom, and she's like, "Yeah, all goes together."
To be fair, I mean, part of me is like, no, but part of me is like, yeah, all girls together. Yeah. I'd be a bit weird. I don't need to go, oh, safety in numbers. Oh, go on then.
Safety, she's the mayor.
She's a bear.
Yeah. Well, when they get into the bathroom, Margaret locks herself in the cubicle, and we hear the hell that. Yeah, it just
Sounds like we just made it in time.
yeah, it doesn't sound good, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I tell you, a note I made here is, God damn, why is there such a big gap at the bottom of the bathroom door?
Honestly.
And I know it's only there for this next moment where Blonde is obviously planning on killing her and she starts unzipping. And I know that door is only that short, so you can see the light from underneath the door.
I don't know, actually.
It's such a bit like, I know, like in schools, like I remember in the school toilet cubicles, there was obviously a gap above the door and below the door. I'm assuming in case someone gets locked in, so if like in emergency people can get through or something. But this door, like the top goes to the ceiling, but the bottom is, it's like a 2-foot gap at the bottom.
I don't know. I've seen some pretty weird toilets in my time, which have gaps like pretty close to that.
Really?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's like what?
I assumed it was only done like that for a lighting purpose.
I mean,
so you could see the light from under the door. I was like, why would you build a bathroom door that short?
I mean, I again really wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
all it takes is one short person to walk in. They can probably see you squatting.
Well, no. The worst thing is, right, and I don't know whether you would have experienced this that much. The worst thing is when you hear a child run into the bathroom and you know that little shit is about to
bang
try
on the door.
No.
Or try and climb
Crawl
under.
underneath.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of times where I've had like a child reach his hand underneath the toilet. And I'm like, oh God. And then you just see it being dragged away by a parent. It's just like, come on, Timmy. And he's like,
Just imagine like, no. Just like nails scraping across the floor.
Do you mean you just be standing there, like just composing yourself and like putting your coat back on? It's just like a little kid crawling under the
Kids are
door.
the worst, man.
Honestly,
The
so
little demons.
so that is the worst.
Yeah.
That's what I would fear.
That's the big bad of this week's episode.
It is.
Short toilet doors.
Yeah. Could we petition for a full door on a cubicle, like a full, just one standalone room, not a cubicle, just a box.
The TARDIS.
The TARDIS.
Yeah. So Margaret / Blonde goes to kill Kathy Salt.
Yes.
Until she finds out that she's engaged and pregnant.
Yeah.
And then she goes on this little thing about, how like, he's nothing.
He's a civil servant, nothing special, but he's mine.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bit rude. I know it's meant to be sweet and endearing, but like, he's nothing special.
Yeah, but
Couples are always meant to be like, oh, you're my world, you're absolutely everything. She's like, he's nothing special.
but he's mine.
Oh,
I don't know.
ruthless.
I think that's kind of sweet, isn't it? It's like he's no big big wig. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not like.
I get the intention behind it, but the way she phrased it does. I would if I overheard you talking about me like that, I would be a little sad.
Nothing special. But he's
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that's kind of cute.
yeah. But yeah, when she finds this out, Blonde retreats essentially and says, "I might be a while. You run along. We'll reschedule the meeting."
Well, I think this is such an interesting scene because it's played so well because you feel bad for Blonde.
Yeah.
Like she's like,
She's obviously reminded of her own family.
Yeah, and she's like, I never had children, and I had brothers, and they were, what did she say? They were not like strong, but they were, I don't know.
I can't remember
the exact word, but she basically says they were great, and you can hear it like in her voice.
Yeah, and it's interesting because even before she finds out, or even before she like relates to her own family or whatever, when she finds out she's pregnant, she like really like slows down and says, "You are with child."
And she just like sits down on the toilet, and it's like, oh,
yeah. So it's kind of implied even before she humanizes Kathy a little bit, she must clearly draw the line at killing children, and except for when it comes to destroying the whole planet.
Well, yeah. But I guess it's just so sad, and the way she sits down and like her weird little eyes just close.
Yeah, her eyes
sadly.
close sideways.
It's like
Her eyelids go left and right, not up and down. That's weird.
It's like I want to give her a cuddle.
Oh no, I wouldn't want to hug a Slovene.
Oh, I can't. It's like,
Yeah.
Blonde. Oh.
But yeah, at this point, obviously having seen the newspaper, Team TARDIS group and converge on City Hall.
Yes.
They plan on tracking her down. We have this sequence where they walk into the door and Jack basically says, "All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're splitting into 4 groups. Doctor, you take door 1. I'll take door 2. Rose, you take door 3. Mickey, you take door 4. Yeah, we all bear arms and they pull out their like mobile phones. And the doctor says, "Excuse me, who's in charge?" And the doctor's and Jack says, "Yeah, sorry, go on, you do your thing." And he goes, "Good plan, let's do that."
I love how poor Mickey's just been pulled into this. They all walk off and Mickey's just looking around like, okay, I guess I'll go
Rose,
this way.
Jack and the doctor all walk off immediately to their post and Mickey's just standing there and he's like looking left and right like,
they're all like running around. Well, the doctor goes up to Blonde's
to the office. Yeah.
Or Margaret's office first, and then speaks to the guy.
Yes. What's his name? I can't remember his name. I didn't write it down. But yeah, Blonde / Margaret's secretary's assistant. The guy who sits on the desk right outside her office and basically handles her appointments. He says, "I'm here to see the mayor."
It's like she's having a cup of tea at the moment, which is very British.
Yeah, indeed, yes.
She can't be disturbed. She's having tea.
Isn't this the Welshest man?
He is very Welsh.
She's having a cup of tea at the moment. And the doctor says, "Oh, I'm just an old." Yeah, she says, "Do you have an appointment?" And he says, "No, just popping by. I'm an old friend. Tell her the doctor's here to see her." So he goes in, and then you just hear like the cup of tea just smash. And then he pops his head back out and says, "The mayor would like to thank you for stopping by, but she's up to her eyes in paperwork."
Do you want to make an appointment for next Tuesday?
Yeah, and that was because she's climbing out the window, isn't she?
Yes.
Yes, she is.
Just instantly dobs her in.
Yeah.
I love. This is what I love. I love the fact that he says he agrees that she's climbing out the window, and then when the doctor goes and tries to chase her, he's like, "Stop.
Leave the mayor alone."
And it's like, why did you tell him?
I know, I don't understand this man's motivations. Yeah. So this is when we get the start of this like chase sequence.
Oh, and then, poor Mickey. They do him so dirty. Like everyone else. Jack's like front flipping over things.
Right, so this is the bit where obviously, so the doctor runs to the balcony to try and chase after her. He's on the phone, he says, Slitheen heading north, wherever. And then we cut to everyone back and forth. Rose is like sprinting down the corridor. Jack does this like somersault over a trolley in the street. I can't unsee it after I noticed it the first time, but you can see John Barrowman bounce off a trampoline in the corridor to actually make it over the trolley. If you watch that thing back and you look at the floor just beyond the trolley, you can see the trampoline he bounces off of, and I cannot unsee it. But you're right. But then we cut to Mickey, and he runs past a similar trolley, but like bumps into it, trips on the mop, flies over, and then gets his foot stuck in a bucket.
And somehow has toilet roll stuck on his foot as well.
He's such a victim, isn't he?
I know, and they eventually all meet up, and he's just there hobbling. He doesn't even stop to take the bucket off.
No.
He just keeps going.
Oh, man.
Oh, Mickey.
Yeah. This is where we get like the teleporter gag.
Oh,
where they all converge. Jack says like, exit 4, who's exit 4? And then Mickey pops out the door. The doctor says, Mickey the idiot. Rose says, let's be honest, it's not like she's going to outrun us, is she? And then she like teleports away. And Jack says, oh, that's not fair, that's cheating. And then the doctor just like sonics, and then we get this like recurring gag of her like reappearing, running towards them, going, oh no, and then turning around, running away, teleporting again. The doctor sonics, and then she reappears. And
I love this.
like
it's so terrible. This is the cheese I like. This is the cheese that I genuinely like. It still gives me like a little chuckle when I watch it, especially when she gets close to the doctor.
Is it because it's cheese but not cringe?
Yeah. It's because she gets close. The last time she teleports, she like runs towards the doctor.
Yeah, she just
and then
gives
she's
up.
Out of breath. And she's like,
the doctor says, I can do this all day. And she just kind of sighs and is like, oh God. At this point, I don't know how they get back in. Because you'd have thought that her receptionist secretary would have like called security or something. But they end up back inside anyway. Now they're in the room that press conference was in next to the model. And we kind of find out what the plan is. So Blonde basically says that the teleporter she was trying to use to get away was how she escaped the missiles back in World War III. And they're talking about the plan with the nuclear power station. The meltdown that was kind of...
what, planned?
I was thinking of a better word than planned. That was kind of manipulated to take place. Was going to open the rift and essentially destroy the planet.
This bit makes me laugh.
This is another pet peeve of mine that I have. So the doctor picks up the model and he flips it over, and it's clearly like some kind of electronic device. Jack snatches it off him and says, is that a tribophysical waveform macrokinetic extrapolator? Yeah. And the doctor says, couldn't have said it better myself. I hate it when people do that in movies and TV shows. Someone's like, oh my God, is that a... And then they go into really overly, like, obnoxious detail with what it is. You know, it's like, I don't know. Say you're watching a film and someone, like, pulls up in a classic car or something. And someone goes, oh my God, is that a 1967 Chevrolet Impala? And it's like, no one talks like that.
This is the cheesy things I don't like. It's like, again, like nobody talks like that. It's too showmanship. It's too like, I know it all.
Only people in stories talk like this.
It's too know it all.
Yeah, and it's not like Russell, because Russell's normally pretty good with having his dialogue be a bit grounded and quite realistic. But yeah, this is very like this line from Jack is just a very annoying pet peeve I have of like people who know their stuff and would be like, oh my god, I know what that is, wouldn't call it that.
Do you think, I mean, I don't know in what order things were written, but do you think this was Russell's first episode that he wrote with Jack? And therefore...
probably.
Because obviously there's only the finale.
Ooh,
I can imagine he left...
I don't know, actually, because I know the very concept for the finale was one of his first ideas for the series. But obviously, because Jack is in that story, I'm not sure if Jack...
was an add-on
later.
So I do wonder if he didn't quite yet know how to handle Jack, and how he talked. Obviously, you know, you can read.
Because I guess he could have, if he knew that Moffat was adding Jack as a character in his story, there's a chance that Russell might have started writing this before he even knew who Jack was.
Yeah.
Probably. He might have just been given some rough character traits. So yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's why it's...
Because there's nothing else in the episode that's like that. It's only this one line, I think.
Well, I just think in general, like, he's... Do you mean, like, when he talks about in the Dr. Dances, when he talks about, you know, his sexual experience with the executioners and
stuff, yeah.
Do you mean it's not
they
as...
stayed in touch.
Yeah, it's a bit more like suave and a bit more like charming, whereas in this it's too like
it's almost as if in and I wonder if you'll agree with this, it's almost as if in The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances he's Sean Connery James Bond, and in this one he's Roger Moore James Bond.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
No, well, yeah, or I would say Pierce Brosnan, but
Pierce Brosnan's a good James Bond. I won't hear this slander. Yeah, so anyway, the plan is she was going to escape on the tribophysical waveform macrokinetic extrapolator, also known as the pan-dimensional surfboard.
Yeah.
So the plan was the meltdown would... basically open the rift, which would power the surfboard, and she would ride the shockwave of the Earth's implosion out into the stars. That's the plan.
And this bit I like is when Rose asks, isn't there somebody in London checking this? Isn't nobody? And Mark goes, we're in Cardiff. London doesn't care. The coast could fall off into the sea and nobody would notice. And then she goes, oh God, I've got a native.
It's so true though, isn't it?
True.
It's so true.
So
Welsh people love to complain about how underrepresented they are in everything.
In everything, yeah.
The only thing we have to be patriotic about is rugby.
Yeah. And our random...
We have no other culture. We used to be good at rugby and now we're okay. Yeah. That's our legacy on the world.
and a couple of good singers and actors and some really weird versions of basic food.
What do you mean?
Like Barabrith.
Oh,
do you mean? Yeah. Or what rarebit. It's just cheese on toast. Do you know what I mean? Like just call it cheese on toast.
Yeah. It's at this point that the Doctor looks up at the banner and he notices the name of the project. It's the Blythe Droog Project, which, as he says, is Welsh for bad wolf. This is the first time that the characters are actually...
noticing it.
Yeah, referencing the fact that they've noticed this connection. They've noticed that this is a recurring thing. Because Rose says, I've heard that before. I've heard it lots of times. And the Doctor says, yeah, everywhere we go, 2 words following us. And Rose looks really scared. And then the Doctor goes, nah, coincidence.
Yeah, it's like something you hear on the radio.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that it was left so late for them to notice it, though.
Yeah.
Because I think if it was brought up, it would get annoying.
Yeah, it would be quite, I know what you mean.
But I think, do you mean, I guess people generally wouldn't have noticed it?
I guess it's especially because, like, not all of the references they would have been there for. Like, in Dalek, when the helicopter lands and you hear the pilot say, Bad Wolf 1 descending, that's not something the characters would have heard.
No.
And it's like, I don't know, in the last episode, that bomb had Schlechter Wolf written on it, where it's like, maybe the Doctor might have, but I doubt Rose noticed it. Or if she did, she probably wouldn't have been able to translate it. But then that does beg the question, why are they references that Rose doesn't notice when the reveal in the finale is she sent the words to herself?
How come she can't translate it? Is it only audio that the TARDIS can translate?
No.
So how come she wouldn't have been able to read it?
Because that hadn't been written yet. Because that TARDIS ability hadn't been written yet.
No.
Is the honest answer.
Fair enough.
No, it's one of those things.
The
It's
Doctor
like
hadn't added that upgrade yet.
no, it's one of those things. You know, like how like the rules of the Sonic, how it works, just depends on episode by episode. Depends on who's writing. I think it's like that.
Fair enough.
Because there are some times where it's like everything in the world is written in English, and they say because the TARDIS translation circuit's doing it. But then sometimes it's like no, they'll be somewhere and it's just symbols. Because I can't remember if it's referenced up until this point. The next mention I can think of the translation circuit is in The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit. Because they find old symbols on there, and Rose says something like, why is it not been translated? And the Doctor says it's too old. The language is so old, it predates the TARDIS.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's mentioned before that in series 2, but yeah. The honest answer is I don't think it'd been written yet.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so the Doctor chalks the Bad Wolf thing up as a coincidence, and he says to Blonde that, hey, you don't need to destroy planet Earth. I'll just take you back home to Raxacoricophalopatorius. And she says they have the death penalty. She says they'll execute me for me and my family's crimes. And he basically says, not my problem.
Oh, at this point, Rose tries to say, I'm just going to call it Rox.
What, you can't say it?
No, I can't remember it.
Raxacoricophalopatorius.
I can't remember it. You can say it as many times as you want. I've seen this episode many times.
Raxacoricophalopatorius.
Rose tries to say it, and that's another thing that is, oh God, this episode is too cheesy.
Too cheesy.
When she says, she's like, oh, I got it, and then she says it, and the Doctor's like, yay!
And then Margaret cuts the mood by going, they have the death penalty.
George, I love her in this. I love her.
She's great, isn't she?
She's so good.
I can't remember her name. The lady who plays Blonde / Margaret. She's really good. So I believe she came back in this one because Russell liked her so much in Aliens of London World War 3.
Do you know what? I think it's a good choice because she just
Do you imagine if this episode was
so
exactly
well.
the same, but instead of Blonde, it was one of the other ones?
Oh, it would be terrible.
It was like the guy who played the general or something.
Oh no! Again, I think that she's so vicious.
She's very good.
She's just brilliant.
Yeah.
I love her.
So Jack is staying in the TARDIS and he's trying to wire the extrapolator into the TARDIS. He says it's not compatible, but it should essentially half the time it takes them to refuel.
Rose says, "Oh, it is the police box, or the TARDIS is like a police box now."
Yeah.
and then Blonde goes, "But you're not just the police. You're my executioners."
Yeah, she's a real like killjoy, isn't she?
Well, fair. She goes on to describe how her execution will be. Fair. I think that's a pretty good excuse.
Yeah. So whilst Jack is trying to set up the extrapolator, Rose and Mickey go for that drink. Well, they say they're going to go for a drink, but they end up just walking on the pier.
Yeah, because Blonde. I'm going to bounce between Blonde and Margaret.
Yeah, no, I've been doing it the whole time.
Yeah.
A couple of times I've said Blonde / Margaret. I don't know what to call it.
She says about, will any of you be able to look into my eyes?
No one can.
Nobody can. I did say to Connor, though, when we watched this, they didn't cut to Jack.
Yeah.
So maybe he was. We don't know.
That's right. I love the thought of like this dramatic moment of them all like looking away, they can't do it, and then the camera cuts and Jack is like an inch away from her face, just staring her down.
Yeah. So Mickey and Rose step outside because Mickey says, it's
too weird in there.
Too weird in there, which fair.
Yeah.
And then Rose says, "I didn't really need you to bring my passport." Such a bitch.
Yeah, but Mickey laughed it off like immediately.
Yeah.
Because I think where I would be like, for God's sake, this was a real inconvenience for me.
Well,
Mickey takes it as like, oh, you wanted to see me.
Well, yeah. But my thing is less that, because she wanted to see him. My thing is, why not just say to him, we're stopping off in Cardiff, and I'd love if you could come, and I'd like to see you. But she's like, nah, I need my passport. So she's like clicking her fingers, and she knows he's going to come running.
That's just kind of part of Rose's character, though, isn't it?
No, but I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah.
She's so horrid in this episode.
Yeah.
So horrid. I think you see like just an
ugly side.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
This side of Rose is very ugly, and we don't see it for another 4-5 more episodes to School Reunion.
Yes.
Which has Mickey in it as well.
Yeah, this is interesting. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I know you regarding Rose's kind of like bitter jealousy. I find it very odd that obviously in School Reunion, which is episode 3 in season 2, obviously the whole thing with Sarah Jane, and there's a whole like jealousy aspect there. The very next episode then is the girl in the fireplace. And the Doctor is clearly way more into Renette than he is Sarah Jane, yet Rose never gets jealous in that episode.
Do you think it's because she knows she's beat?
No, I think it's because Stephen Moffat wrote it.
Fair enough. Maybe it's both.
Yeah, it's Russell that seems to write Rose at her most
cruel.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, either that or maybe she knows that the time is going really fast.
Oh, she knows it's not going to last.
She knows it's not going to last.
Well, that's even worse.
But yeah, anyway, so...
Anyway, Rose and Mickey are going to go for that drink, and they're walking on the pier and they're talking about their relationship, essentially.
I love this. I've put in my notes, Mickey wants to smash. He's like, we could get a hotel room.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right then.
Even though he's going out with Trisha Delaney.
Yeah. Which, bad Mickey.
Yeah. It's funny, this scene with Rose and Mickey talking outside was actually... it was extended. The filming of it was extended by 2 nights because the temperature was so cold that the fountain had to be shut off.
Really?
So the water was obviously like freezing and stuff. So it made me laugh earlier when
Cardiff.
I know, but when you mentioned earlier about how like that fountain doesn't work anymore, they extended this shoot for 2 nights just so they could have the fountain be on.
Oh. Yeah. At this point, the Doctor and Jack watch Rose and Mickey walk away.
Yeah.
And Blonde...
I just find that interesting as well, because like the Doctor's watching them walk away on the monitor, and Jack says like, anything interesting on? And he's like, no, not really. We're just like, I don't know, just that, I like that little moment of the Doctor watching them walk away.
Yeah. Blonde has a last request before she dies.
Yes.
Which is food. Which, fair. Vibe.
Yeah.
She's like, I quite liked my little human life. There was a nice little place on the edge of the sea.
Yeah, and what is it? She asked for. She says there was a restaurant I became rather fond of. The Doctor basically says no because you can try and get away. You're going to put people's life in danger. I'm not doing it. And Jack says, "Oh well, I have these bracelets, and if you get more than 10 feet away,
what is it with those? So many questions. Where did he get? Why has he got those? Where did you get those?
Something from his time agency days, maybe.
Or something from his...
his
excursions.
The thing, because then Blonde says, dinner in bondage.
Yeah. Which, I'm not going to lie, is probably what Jack's used them for.
Yeah. Good line, though. I like it.
I love this little interaction with Blonde and the Doctor, though, because she's like, would you dine with a creature that you're about to kill? Have you got the stomach for it? And he's like, my stomach's pretty strong.
Yeah, she's like, how strong is your stomach? He's like, strong enough.
And just...
Let's put that to the test.
And she's like, I think she's like, you fought with your enemies. Can you dine with them? It's like the way she says it is so good. So bitter and like venomous.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like she's really putting it on.
Yeah.
And honestly,
she's hamming it up in the best way, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the Slovene I wanted.
Yeah. So Mickey tells Rose that Rose is going on this whole spiel about the TARDIS adventures. We went to a planet called Woman Wept, and she's talking about her adventures, and you can tell Mickey's just like, oh, for God's sake, stop, please. Yeah. And Mickey just interrupts her and says, I'm seeing Trisha Delaney.
What, the girl from the shops? Yeah. She's a bit big, isn't she?
Yeah.
She lost weight. It's so rude.
Does that not date this to the early noughties?
It's so bitchy. Like, she's like, oh, well, she's big.
I don't know how much of that, though, is actually Rose being bitter and how much of that is that was just 2000s culture.
No, she's being bitter.
Because Mickey doesn't say, like, what the hell's your problem? Mickey says, she lost weight.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't know how much of that is just like, that's just...
Well, yeah, but I think I think Rose is implying, well, oh, she's not better than me, kind of thing.
Right.
And being like, oh, I'm better. And then Mickey's like, well, she's not as you remember her.
Maybe, yeah. Don't know. But then, yeah, because Rose starts off kind of like taken aback and a bit like, oh, really? Like, she's kind of surprised. And then she gets bitter really quick and says, you don't even like her.
Well, yeah, because she's like, why are you even with... Because they have a little... They steer it back to the original conversation. Mickey's like, oh, tell me more about the planet. And she's like, that's about it, really. And he's trying to have a conversation with it, and she's just like giving him really blunt answers.
Yeah.
And then she's like, why are you with her anyway? I know you. You'd never go for her. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You don't even like her.
Yeah, and Mickey says, at least I know where she is.
And then, again...
And then
the
Noel
way
Clarke,
he says, like...
Again, Noel Clarke, again, I feel hard. I feel bad because, obviously, bad dude. He did bad stuff.
Yeah.
But he's good in this scene.
This is
where
very good.
He's very, like, he starts tearing and welling up.
He's like, you left me.
Yeah, he says, you left me. At least I know where she is. But I can't even go out with a girl from the shop because I know whenever you call me, I'll come running. He says, are you going to make me wait forever? Because I will.
It's so heartbreaking, isn't
and I think
it?
you can tell that he's so sincere and vulnerable in this moment because despite her kind of like bitchy tendencies, Rose, she does apologise.
Well, that's the thing. She goes to like, kind of like, not touch him, but like,
she goes to like put her hand on it,
and he kind of like shrugs it off. He's like,
yeah, she goes to like console him by putting her hand on his shoulder, and he kind of like, I don't know, shuffles away like he doesn't want to be touched.
Which is fair, because he's like, well, don't try and apologise for something that I know you're not sorry for.
Yeah. But I believe her apology.
I don't.
I don't think she's just saying sorry to, like, shut him up. I do think that she hadn't considered how selfish she was being. I think she saw it as being adventurous and fun and whimsical, and she hadn't considered how badly she was treating him. Well, and I think that especially comes in at the end of the episode, you know what I mean? I think she reflects on all this.
I don't know, because Mickey says about going up, if she still wants to go up to that hotel room.
Yeah. And
she says, oh, what would Trisha say?
Yeah.
As in, like, kind of having a dig against him for cheating on Trisha.
Mm-hmm.
Which is terrible. However, in the literal last episode, she was flirting with Jack and making it very clear to Jack that she's in a relationship, but
she was also flirting with Adam in Dalek.
Yeah, but she's available. She's very available. Yeah, she's made it clear.
That's it. Rose is not a good person.
No,
Rose is good for the Doctor.
But I think,
yeah, she is not by most morals that we go by as Western Earthians. Good talk. Most of our morals in terms of monogamy and being faithful to your partner and being selfless and prioritizing others' safety and desires before your own. Rose does not tick most of those boxes.
No,
and this is a problem I think that Amy has as well.
I think it's not that it's always that case, because this is a very sweeping statement, but I think that it's very much shows her age.
Well, listen, I think you forget that she's. I think you forget that she's 19.
Yeah,
I mean, because I always think of her as being in her like 20s, but yeah, you forget she's not even 20 years old.
Do you mean I think maybe I mean, people do at any age, but you hear more people who are younger, and we would have known more people when we were younger to kind of not take relationships seriously and kind of be testing the field a bit.
Not only not take relationships seriously, but also deny accountability for bad actions.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing, you know, when we saw earlier when she's like, explaining the rift and charging the TARDIS.
It's big energy of a young person trying to play big boy, isn't it?
Yeah, and she there was another word she used earlier when she was talking to Mickey about like the places she'd been, and I can't remember what it is, but she used quite a sophisticated word.
Right.
And then so I guess sometimes you forget how old she is.
Yeah.
So then this brings you to the thing of like, oh no, she is a teenager.
Yeah.
And
I mean, she's going to be, what, like 6-7 years younger than us now?
yikes.
Yeah, gross, I know.
But but that's the thing, because Mickey's older than her. So I know it changes, but he's probably looking for something more serious. He's probably looking to settle down, whereas because she's still young,
Yeah.
maybe not so much. And
The
also
excitement of other things.
yeah, something new, and she's got the doctor whisking her off to new places. So, but yeah, I just think it's a very interesting scene, like between them, and it's good to see that relationship development.
As a whole, I like this episode quite a lot, and I think it's really underrated, but it goes to show that you can write compelling sci-fi on a low budget.
Yes. However, this is one thing, we'll come to this later, but I think some things are done very well in this and some things not so much. But yeah, so we'll cut back to the Doctor and Blonde.
Yeah, so they're
They've
having
gone for a
dinner
meal.
in the restaurant. She's essentially trying to guilt trip him into being like, "Oh, you're my executioner. Are you sure you can dine with someone that you're sending to their death?" And the Doctor's like, "Yeah, pretty much."
And just this whole sequence of her, I mean, telling
This
her...
is the scene I think of when I think of this episode.
Yeah, when she's like, you know, oh, the acidity that I'll be boiled in this cauldron will strip my skin off of my organs, and I'll still be alive, screaming. And he's like, okay, and and he's like, well, it's not my fault. And she's like, but you're. He's like, I don't make the law. And she's like, yes, but you're.
You deliver it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, look over there. There's my flat. And then like poisons his drink.
Yeah, she's got poison hidden in her ring, and she points at her flat next to what's the hotel? The St. David's Hotel? Is that the one in the bay? It's not. That's not what she's pointing at, but the building she's pointing at is next to that one. Yeah, and the Doctor looks over at it, and she slips this like poisonous powder into the drink.
And I love how, with a smile, he just changes the drinks.
Yeah, he turns over. It turns around. He hasn't seen this, but he just instinctively swaps the drinks. And she goes, "Thank you."
He's like,
yeah, he just gives her the teeth,
a big old grin,
and then just starts reading the menu again.
Yeah. And then she's like, "Oh, how much do you know about the Slovenes?"
Yeah, right. This is a point of contention for me, because she says, "How much do you know about our race?" And he says, "Only what I've seen." And she says, "Oh, so do you know then that you know, when in danger, the female Slovene can fire a poison dart?" And she like fires a dart from her finger, and he catches it and goes, "Yes, I did." How does he know that?
Maybe Mickey scanned.
He said he only knows what he's seen, but he knows that.
I'm sure he probably did some research.
I don't know, yeah. But anyway, she fires like a poison dart out of her fingernail, and he just like catches it and goes, "Yes, I did." And she goes, "Just checking."
And she's like, "Did you know?" And she like lowers her tone and brings him in close. And she's like,
I love this shot because the camera's got like a wide lens. It's really close.
I love it so much. It makes me laugh every time. And she
goes, the excess poison can be released through the lungs. And just like breathes in his face.
And he just squirts her in the mouth with like a breath spray.
Yeah, and he goes, "That's better." And
she's just like, with her little like tongue sticking out, just like.
You know, you said, why does the Doctor carry a banana on him last episode?
Yeah.
The Doctor carries breath spray on him.
I mean, I think that's more likely.
For the Doctor?
For people.
For people, not for the 9th Doctor.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he's waiting. Maybe he was expecting a nice little evening with Jack.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so at this point, since killing him doesn't work, she tries to get his sympathy. So she talks about her childhood, how she was forced to hunt. Apparently she was forced by her older brother or her father, I can't remember. Father.
She said
to
at the age of
perform
13.
her first murder at 13.
And she said if she wasn't, she was going to be eaten by some sort of rats or something.
Yeah. She says, I can change. Just today I spared a woman. And she talks about Kathy Salt.
Kathy Salt.
Yeah, and says I spared her. And the doctor basically says it doesn't make any difference.
No.
He says it's just a way of living with yourself.
Yeah.
You can go around causing genocide, you can kill hundreds, thousands of people, and you justify it to yourself by saying every now and then you let one of them live.
And I love how bitter and again, venomous she is, and she's like, only a killer would know that.
Yeah, and his face drops, doesn't it? Because he's kind of like, he's looking at her with, like, he's not smiling, but you can see the best way to describe it is you see him kind of drop his cheekbones. Do you know what I mean? He's like kind of looking at her, and then when she says only a killer would know that, his eyes just kind of drop.
Yeah.
It's not a massive, change.
You can see,
it's a subtle facial expression change where you can tell that clearly
got to him.
That hit a little close to home.
Which, I mean, she even says, you leave destruction in your wake. So
yeah, she says I've seen the life you live. You leave destruction in your wake.
She's like, you murdered my family and ran away.
You murdered my family. You ran away. Are you gonna let one of them live?
Yeah, and she's like, let me live. She also says about, during her execution. She keeps saying about how he runs away.
Yeah.
And she says how in his execution about, are you going to stay and watch? Or are you going to run off as normal? Which the Doctor does a lot. I mean, he literally did he's done in everything, but he did do in World War III.
Yeah.
Because he literally says...
I don't like the paperwork. I don't like the tidy up. Because Harriet Jones takes it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he does do that.
Yeah. I think it's at this point, though, that there's a massive earthquake. So the window of the restaurant shatters. Everyone starts panicking. Rose and Mickey on the pier, obviously around there, start shaking. Rose books it and runs away, and Mickey's not happy about it.
No, he's like, go off, run off to him, as you always will do.
Yeah, it's always about the Doctor. It's never about me. The Doctor and Blonde running from the restaurant, coming down the stairs, and she's like, slow down, we still have the cuffs on. And the Doctor, he does take the cuffs off, and he says, don't think about running anyway. And she says, oh no, I'm sticking with you. And they head back towards the TARDIS, where they can see a massive sky beam essentially shooting out of the TARDIS light up into the sky. And the Doctor says, it's the rift is opened. So when they get back inside, Jack says that the extrapolator is drawing from the rift. The extrapolator is drawing from the TARDIS, which is drawing from the rift.
Yeah.
And this is when we basically get the reveal that this was Blonde's plan all along. She kind of grabs Rose
as she runs through the door.
Yeah. Blonde kind of she lobs her skin off of her arm.
Yeah.
And then so looks like Margaret, but she's got a big slitheen arm, and she kind of puts Rose in like a chokehold. And basically says, this was her plan. So if the extrapolator was to be found by someone with advanced tech and activated it, it would lock onto the nearest alien power source. So that's what it's done, and it's tearing open the rift. But the Doctor says, because this whole time she's explaining it, and you're expecting the Doctor to look angry or annoyed, but he looks very calm.
He does, yeah. And I don't know, it does make me think, obviously the way she's saying it, she's like, I finally got you, you're all going to die. But the last time she did this, and the Doctor had a very calm face, it didn't end very well.
Yeah.
You think she's
and he's in a much better position now than he was then, because he was trapped in the bunker.
You think he'd be like, in the middle of your speech, you'd be like, what are you grinning at? What?
Why are you so smug?
Why are you so smug?
Yeah.
What do you know?
But the Doctor says, this isn't just any ship, it's the TARDIS. It's my TARDIS. And at this point, one of the panels on the front of the TARDIS console opens up, and this blinding white light comes out, and Blonde looks into it, and it's so bright.
Yeah. You can literally just see eyes and mouth.
Yeah, she's looking at it. You see this like close up of her face. You can just see like the sparkles in her eyes, and she looks transfixed. So the doctor says, I think Rose says, "What is that? What's that light?" And the doctor says, "It's the heart of the TARDIS." The doctor says, "You're pulling my ship apart, and now you've opened up its heart. You're looking into its soul." And she looks into it, and she eventually lets Rose go.
Yeah, and the doctor says, like, you know, think of who Blonde is and who, you know, who you are really deep down.
Yeah. She lets Rose go. Rose runs over to Jack immediately. And she looks at the doctor and she says, "Thank you." And he kind of gives her a facial expression that says "you're welcome," if you can, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
He kind of does it. And then
Poof.
Margaret Blaine's skin falls to the floor. The doctor runs over to the console and he seals up the door to basically tuck back in the heart of the TARDIS. And he says, well, obviously they're all asking, what happened? Is she dead? And he says, no, I don't think so. She looked into the heart of the TARDIS. Even I don't know how powerful that is. And he reaches into the skin and the clothes, and then he pulls out an egg.
Which, again, still makes me laugh. It's very sweet and cute, but I'm just like, it's just a little egg.
It's not a great prop, because it's like, it looks like it's an egg that's got little tendrils coming out of it. But the tendrils remind me of, you know, when you're like in nursery and you do like arts and crafts and you have those like, what are they called? Like pipe cleaners? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Like the really bendy metal things that have like what
pipe
looks like
cleaners.
tinsel on the end.
Yeah.
It looks like you just stuck some of those into like a cardboard, like, look, you did a paper mache balloon and then you stuck a bunch of those pipe cleaners in. That's what it looks like.
See, I think it kind of looks like a potato that's grown eyes. Do you know what I mean? Like the little. It's like if you took a big old potato, it's grown eyes, and then you sprayed it all brown.
Oh no, not brown.
Yeah, like a big
It's kind of green though, isn't it?
No,
Is it brown?
brown. It's kind of cute though, in a weird way.
I knew you would say that.
It's kind of cute. Like I don't know why. It just is. It's just like, oh, look at the little egg.
But yeah, the reveal is essentially, obviously, the TARDIS is telepathic. It's not just a machine, it's a living, breathing thing, and it knew that Blonde wanted a second chance, so it gave it to her, essentially.
Yeah, it's just so sweet.
So the episode ends where the doctor says they're going to leave for Raxacoricofallapatorius, they're going to drop the egg off and give Blonde her second chance. Mm-hmm. Rose goes to look for Mickey at the pier where she left him and can't find him. There's a bunch of paramedics helping injured people nearby, and we get this shot of Mickey kind of lurking around the corner. He sees Rose looking for him,
But he doesn't go.
but he
near.
doesn't go up to her. He just turns around and walks away.
I put down, I would have loved for this to have been Mickey's villain arc. Like this is the point. And then we see him like a couple episodes time, and then all of a sudden he's like
He's got
the
an
big,
evil goatee.
yeah, he's the big bad.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, but you know, like, fair enough.
Okay.
Not for the Doctor,
Yeah.
but just for Rose.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Rose goes back to the TARDIS. This is when, like I said earlier, the doctor says, we're ready to leave if you are. She says, yeah. He says, do you want to go say bye to Mickey? We're happy to wait. And she says, no, it's fine. Let's just go.
Yeah, she says he's already gone.
He's already gone. So, yeah. Next stop, Raxacoricofallapatorius. And that's it. That's the end of the episode. So, what do you think?
You go first this time.
Okay.
What do you think?
Right, so I don't know if you recall, back when we covered The Unquiet Dead, I said it's that episode and this one I feel like are the most underrated in Series 1.
I agree.
I think The Unquiet Dead is underrated in terms of it's just often overlooked. I think people forget it exists, and
Yes,
it's actually
they do.
quite good. I think this is underrated in the sense of people quite often say this is a bad episode, and I don't think it is.
Both set in Cardiff.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So I think in terms of flaws, some of the tone is a bit weird. Like I say,
Yeah.
I think you're right. It's a little cheesy in a way that I don't mind cheese, but it's cheesy in a way that feels disconnected from the rest of the series. And I think that sorry, I was trying to think of the word then, but I think the resolution of this episode in terms of the heart of the TARDIS, although very cool and interesting, and it's obviously pays off again in the finale, in terms of this episode, it's a bit of a Deus Ex Machina. It seems to come from nowhere. It's not set up prior, which I know this episode is setting up the finale, like I said, but watching this for the first time, I would just be a bit like, well, I was okay.
Yeah.
The TARDIS can just do that. Okay, fine. That aside, I like this episode quite a bit. I think it does a lot with a low budget. It obviously, being in Cardiff, doesn't need a whole bunch of like green screen or CGI or sets or anything. And obviously they get to reuse the Slovene prop.
Which I love.
So the only CGI really that I can think of
The cracks.
is the cracks and the sky beam.
Yeah.
That's about it, I think.
Because, yeah,
And obviously the teleporting effects when Blonde like teleports, but like that's easy.
And
done.
obviously what's called the skin of Margaret as Blonde gets out of.
Yeah.
But that's about it, really.
Yeah, so it's pretty CGI light. And I think similar to Aliens of London, obviously being the other Slovene story, I think this does quite a lot of good character work for Mickey and Rose. I think Aliens of London was a lot of, I think it was Mickey, Rose and Jackie's kind of development. And this one is more of like, I like Jack in this one, but Jack doesn't get a lot of
He doesn't really do
focus,
anything, does he? No.
Just talking about Jack for a second, just completely off topic. His outfit's awful in this episode.
I thought he's just wearing like a white shirt and...
He's got weird like chinos on, and I don't know. It's like a cargo jacket. It's very odd.
Yeah. They're like beige, like chinos, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not a good look. I say wearing beige chinos.
I was gonna say,
but it's not the chinos. It's the whole ensemble that he's got.
Well, it'd be easy to replicate.
It would easy cosplay.
Easy cosplay.
Yeah. But yeah, like Jack doesn't get a lot of attention, and to be honest, the Doctor doesn't either.
No.
Other than that one reference that Blonde makes about like only a killer would know that.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of Mickey and Rose, this episode's quite good for development, and I think it does a good job of expanding on Blonde.
And I think it does a good job of expanding on the Doctor.
In what way?
Well, I don't know whether the Doctor's intention was to have the heart of the TARDIS possibly do something. I don't think
it was his intention as in he made it happen. I think he knew it would happen. I think he knew that her essentially pulling the machine apart would expose this thing.
Yeah.
So that's why he seemed to be so calm and collected. I don't think he knew what the heart of the TARDIS would do, but I think he knew that it would kind of force her to confront her actions a bit.
But I like the thing of the Doctor possibly, thinking on, whether he should but take Blonde, to basically a death.
Yeah.
And seeing that side of him where he's kind of like, well, I wish I could do something else, but I can't just let you go. Because obviously...
Obvious reasons.
You could do it again.
Yeah, I mean, he does say that earlier, doesn't he?
Yeah.
She says, they have the death penalty, take me to my family that are on other planets, and he says, no, because you just start again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, are you positive on this episode?
So, I am positive. I really do enjoy this episode. But again, some things kind of ruin it for me.
Okay.
Like I said, the interactions between the Dr. Jack and Rose is just too much and not needed. Like, it's just too cheesy.
Time and space.
I think, I don't know. Tonally, it's all over the place a bit.
It might have been interesting. You talk earlier about, was this written before
knowing
Jack?
Yeah.
I wonder if this was just an early episode anyway written, because you know how we said like the first like two episodes are kind of weird on tone.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, it's not quite sure how cheesy to be. I wonder if this was written early on where they were still in that phase.
I would have thought so. Especially because, well, I don't know, because then you would have to have known about the rift. I guess it couldn't have really, because you would have had to have known about the other episodes to have written it. You would have had to have known about what's it called?
The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances.
And
The Unquiet Dead.
The Unquiet Dead and the what's it called?
Aliens of London World War III.
Yeah, that's the one. So you would have had to have known about a lot of episodes.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I think this was a filler episode. I think it was written to be a filler episode. I think it was like, well, we need an episode between here and Russell liking what the actress who plays Blonde or Margaret does.
Yeah.
Thinking, I can bring her back. We need something quite cheap. We'll just do it in Cardiff. And then, we'll bring back the rift.
Yeah.
Because we already know about that. We'll add that. And then obviously, I'm assuming around this time they were writing Torchwood as well. So
No.
Would that have been slightly later?
Torchwood is after series 2.
But yeah, so I guess it does feel quite slapped together.
Yeah, it's
but
maybe
I
a little
think-
bit like you can see it's kind of held with tape a little bit.
Yeah, but I think, again,
In a charming way, though.
Yeah, I think you can.
Not
you
in a
could
way
enjoy
that
it.
not in a way that I think makes me feel like it's unfinished.
No, but I think it's. Do you mean
It's not like the Battle of Ranscroft Colossus where I'm like, you can tell it's a first draft.
I think if it had a couple more drafts, it would have been really good. But then timing and budgets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's only you've got to deal with what you're given. I think again, it's a very interesting premise because, like mentioned before, the Doctor often deals with the monster of the week, but doesn't have to deal with the repercussions.
Yeah.
And doesn't have to.
I guess this is an episode where
Actually-
he has to deal with the repercussions of episodes 4 and 5.
And also, he has to then, like she says, do the art, the law,
Yeah.
and actually be the person to
Take accountability.
take
essentially.
accountability
Yeah.
of these creatures and what they've done wrong and punish them. But that's not the Doctor, and that's not the way he does it. So I think that's really interesting to kind of have those two. Again, I love the Slitheen anyway. I think they're really cool. So I like having them back. I really like Blonde. And I really like the relationship that we see between Mickey and Rose. It's showing, because we obviously know it, but it's showing that Rose just left Mickey. She's up and left.
From his POV, it's not been long.
No. But, well,
Long enough for him to start dating Trisha Delaney.
I mean, it has been long.
Well, there was that year gap. But
There was a year, and then there was 6 months on top of. So he hasn't, again, but because literally at that point, she said, be back in, 10 seconds?
Oh, yeah, good, yeah.
And then 6 months later, he gets a call off her saying, bring my passport to Cardiff. Do you know what I mean?
I feel like we all know someone like that, though. We all know someone who's such a simp that they like...
They just drop everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think, again, in the subtleties, I think it's really interesting. And, again, like I said before, having Margaret being able to do so much in 6 months
Yeah.
is
What a scathing critique of politics.
yeah. But I think that's really interesting. Maybe could have been played on a little bit more, brought in a bit more. Do you know what I mean? And again, like I said, the fact that Rose left Mickey and 6 months ago, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think he makes a very good point, and I really like that conversation of, she pops back whenever and just snaps her fingers, and he'll come running. And I think that's really interesting. But yeah, would have liked this to be start of a villain arc for Mickey, but it wasn't.
Where would that have paid off?
I don't know, but would have been down for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that,
The only...
pretty positive.
That's good. The only bit of trivia I have with this one is what the original concept of the episode was going to be. So obviously this was written by Russell. Originally it was going to be written by Paul Abbott, and he was going to write an episode that was basically going to do with Rose being jealous of Jack and the Doctor's relationship.
Ooh.
So that was the original concept, and it was also going to deal with how Rose's life has been manipulated by the Doctor to essentially create a perfect companion.
That I wish we'd had that. Not in place of this.
See, I don't know.
I really like the sound of that.
I don't like the idea of the Doctor having manipulated Rose's life to make a perfect companion. Not just in the sense of that doesn't seem like something the Doctor would do, but I like the idea that just Rose as herself, as a human being on Earth who made her own life choices, is exactly what the Doctor needed at that point in his life. And then if he essentially manipulated everything to make her who she is, I feel like that detracts from that.
Maybe less that, but I'm very interested in the Jack Doctor relationship thing.
Yeah, I don't have any further information, so I don't know if it's like jealous of, I don't know, maybe the fact that because they both have like superior knowledge.
I
or whether
wonder
it's
if that idea was used for School Reunion. Because she is jealous of their relationship. Obviously, they have had a history.
Yeah.
And again, it's that thing of Sarah Jane had that history with the Doctor, but then went on to do her own stuff.
Yeah.
And had experience there. So I wonder if that kind of fed over, because it, again, would have been a couple of episodes.
It's interesting, linking Sarah Jane and Jack being the two characters that have their own spin-offs.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I wonder.
I don't know why that didn't go ahead, but yeah,
maybe
that
it was time restraints or something.
Possibly, or maybe Russell just second thought it and he thought, actually, that's not the arc I want for these characters.
Maybe.
But yeah, that was originally what was going to fill this slot in the series. But yeah, obviously we got what we got.
Was there an alternative name?
Yeah, so I got some working titles. Well, I got one working title and I got some foreign titles.
I was going to say, because Boomtown is an odd name.
Yeah. So the working title was Dining with Monsters.
Okay, I hate that, so... Boomtown's looking better.
The French title is The Cardiff Explosion.
Oh, fucking hell. Christ. Oh, okay, yeah.
And the Japanese title is The Sorrowful Slovene.
I kind of don't mind that. But then it's a bit on the nose, isn't it? But then so is Boomtown, yeah.
Can you come up with a better one?
Well, it's a bit...
Not on the spot.
Maybe not. I don't know, just...
If you gave me 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, if you give me 5 minutes, I could. Even a minute, not recorded. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to sit here for a minute and be like,
I can just add like a TikTok sound effect. Not as in the platform TikTok, as in, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
As in TikTok. Let's add the countdown clock.
Oh yeah, that will help.
Yeah.
How about I'll think on it, and next episode
we'll almost certainly forget by then.
I'll try and remember.
Yeah. But yeah, do you have anything else to say regarding Boomtown?
No.
No?
Oh, only just again, please bring back Slovene.
Yeah, we've not seen it. Well, obviously, other than their appearances in the Sarah Jane Adventures, we've not seen the Slovene since.
No. So
well, unless you count that like cameo in End of Time Part 2. In the diner. You know, when the Doctor's doing his goodbye tour and he bumps into Jack in the diner.
Yeah.
You see a Slovene walk past.
I thought there was a Slovene in... Is it the Pandorica Opens?
Oh, you might be right. There might be one there. But again, even then, those two are just like...
Passing
background cameos. They're not actually like a Slovene episode. Like, wouldn't it be really good now if Shooty had a Slovene episode?
I'd love that. We might do. We might get one. We don't know.
Yeah, Russell's back. We could.
I hope so. I'd look forward to that.
Yeah. But
Bring back Blonde.
well,
Bring back baby Blonde.
that would kind of undo this. But
Bring back Blonde as a companion.
oh god, which Doctor would you pair Blonde up with as a companion?
I mean Eccleston.
Not like Matt Smith.
No.
The 11th Doctor and Blonde fell fort Passamide Slitheen.
I kind of like the I think he's got the witty sarcasm to kind of go with her bluntness.
You don't think 12 does? Imagine Capaldi
but-
and Blonde.
That would be funny, but I think he's too serious.
Oh, you need... okay.
You need kind of like the cheeky chappy
Yeah.
to kind of be like, yeah, right.
You need Northerner.
You need a northerner.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess with that in mind, thank you all for listening to this episode of the pod. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this. You can subscribe to keep up with everything we post going from now on. We're planning on not just doing these episode reviews, but doing some kind of miscellaneous episodes in between. So we'd like to maybe do some games now and again. That is, I will specify, we will play games regarding the show. We're not going to be covering Doctor Who video games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I expect, obviously, next episode we're going to be covering the series finale. And I think, Charles, you have plans
For the episode after.
for the episode after that, which is going to be a bit of a series roundup, and you're, putting something together for me.
Yeah, a little quiz. I'm going to take charge on this one. So,
So,
wish me luck.
yeah. But yeah, like I say, you can subscribe and keep checking us out on YouTube, or alternatively, you can follow us over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whatever your streaming platform of choice is. But I guess we'll see you in the next episode, where we'll encounter the game station and say goodbye to the 9th Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, until then, stay safe, stay away from Welsh politicians that are actually extraterrestrials in meat suits.
But do visit Cardiff Bay.
If you want.
If you want, yeah.
Yeah.
Go visit Yanto's shrine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.